In this video, we are going to be creating a fog material that can be used with a post-process volume. This material can be modified and reused in other projects, so you really only need to create it once. So there's going to be a lot of blueprint nodes in this tutorial, but once we get through it, it will be worth it. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, I have the material already created, so I can use it as a reference, but I'm going to go ahead and right-click in the content browser, create a new material. In this case, I'll just call it Fog 2. You can just call it Fog. Then we'll double click on it to open it. And the first thing you need to change is you need to change the type of material it is. So right now it is just a surface material. We're going to go to material domain, change this to post process. And now the only input you have is emissive color, which is perfectly fine because that's what we're going to be making use of. Okay, the next thing we actually do want to change is scroll down and under post-process material, go to before tone mapping. All right, so that's part of the setup. Now the first thing we're going to do is we have to create a bunch of nodes. So the first thing I'll do is I'll right-click and type in texture coordinate. So you can just type in text and it might come up right away, but you can just type in texture coordinate. This is what we want. What this does is it basically creates a node that kind of acts as like a UV, and then we'll drag off of this and create a scene texture, and then we need to click on this and change the scene texture ID from scene color to post process input 0. Okay, so this is the first step. You can click and drag to move these. So you need to drag off the color and create a component mask. And right now it has an RG. Then you can also click on the component mask and then check the B. So from there, we will click and drag and create a LERP. So a linear interpolate. So it'll be under math, linear interpolate. All right, then you can hold in 3 and click. This will create a vector 3, and we can actually adjust our color. So this will actually be the color of the fog. And what we can do is we can right click on this, convert to parameter, and call this color underscore fog or fog color, whichever you prefer. And then we will actually drag off of this and create another linear interpolate node. Except we actually do want, so you can alt click to remove that. We want it to be on the B. We want to drag down from the mask. All right, so we then take this result, plug it into the B. You can kind of see it starting to do something over here. You can actually see the effect. So we still need to create a thing that checks for the distance of the camera and of the world. So we're going to add that in now. So we can right click. You can type in world position, and you will get an absolute world position. And then you need to right click, type in camera position. Camera position WS is what you want. So you'll have these 2 red nodes. And then you'll click and drag off of this. You can type in sub for subtract. You can plug these in. So what this is going to do, it's going to subtract the absolute world position from the camera position. So it's going to compare these 2 things. And then we're going to drag off of this and create a vector length. Oops, here we go. So the vector length is just this number in vector form, right? So like a vector is a vector 3 is 3 coordinates. You have an X, a Y, and a Z. So a world position subtracted from a camera position will give you 3 different variables, right? It'll give you an X, a Y, and a Z. We're taking that and we're converting that into a usable thing that we're going to use for comparing distance. So it's very important we have that. And then we're going to click and drag off of this and create a divide. So just type like div for a divide. And then we need to hold in 1 and click. This will create a constant. This is just a number. We can right click, convert to parameter. But this is going to be when the fog essentially starts in the foreground. So we can just call this like FG for foreground underscore fog. So this is when it starts in the foreground, and we can just set this to a value of 500 to start, and we can adjust this later, which is nice. And then we'll plug this in to the divide. We can drag that over. And then we want to clamp the divide result. So this is what will force it between a value of 0 and 1. So if it exceeds that, it'll just kind of stay within this range. So that's kind of nice. And we'll plug that into the alpha. We can kind of drag, select these and drag. So you can see it's starting to do something, but it's not doing what we want just yet. And then we can drag off of the vector length and type in divide. And I'll drag these down because they're kind of, you don't want to cross your wires. Let's just hold in 1 and click, and then we'll convert to parameter. This will be BG fog, so like background fog when that starts. So we'll put in a value of like a few thousand. Let's do 4,000. And we'll plug this into the divide. And then we will clamp this. And then we will plug this clamp into the alpha. And now we have our fog. All right. So this is the first step, is creating the material. Now the cool thing about this is we can change the color. So you want to make it darker, if you want to just make it normal white fog, we can do that. And then you can also adjust the foreground and background distance. So let's say we set this to 100. Now it appears to be obscuring the model a little bit. So if you set this to like 0, you can see it's like hard to tell. Like you can't really see the background that well. But we'll set this to 1,000, and 4,000 should be fine. You can also zoom in and out to see the effects of the fog. So as you zoom in, you can see it's making use of this absolute world position and the camera position. That's actually how we create the fog. And then the closer we get, it looks at these, the foreground fog and the background fog, and then gives us our result. So this is the first step, is creating the material. So we can minimize that. And then what we want to do is go under visual effects and drag and drop in a post-process volume. Now you can put it up high just so you don't accidentally delete it, or just kind of move it off to the side. And what you want to do is you want to select it. You want to go down to where it says infinite bounds. And you can actually type this in too. So infinite extend, let me like, there you go. So infinite extent unbound, you can check that. So now it'll create the post-process effects throughout the entire map, because usually the way it works is you can increase the size of this volume so that when you're within the volume, you're basically colliding or inside of this box, you will experience the post-processing. By checking this, it'll work anywhere. So you can just have the post-process in the corner on the map and it'll just affect your entire level. And then what you want to do is actually add a material. So we want to go back up. You want to go to post-process materials, array, click on add. Then you want to choose asset reference. And then what you can do is you can click on the none and you can select your material. And now you have fog. So then if I hit play, we now have dynamic fog that we can control the color, we can control the distance, and it actually does look pretty decent, and it's quite efficient as well. So it's not going to lag your game, and it just uses basic things. So if we wanted to change this a bit, all we have to do is open up the material. Let's say we want to change the color. We can make it like blue. And then if I want to decrease the start, we can do that so it's not as foggy up front. And then if we want to decrease or increase its distance so it's further back, we just hit apply. And now we have this cool blue fog, and we can see our character a little bit better. So this adds a lot to the environment for very little GPU usage, which is important. So yeah, that's how you add fog. It's pretty nice, pretty easy to customize. There is another way to add a fog effect like this. I'm going to go over that in a separate video. That's a lot easier, but it's not this exact type of fog where it's based on distance, because this will start to cover things that are distant in fog, whereas the other fog I'm going to show in the next video will actually just add fog based on the height of the map. So the lower in elevation you go, the more fog there is, whereas with this one, it's just universally everywhere. So yeah, that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this or found this useful, and drop a comment. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.